All right, so welcome to our Tuesday Tech Talks. Uh, Clint Stevens, our special guest presenter this week is Chris Haught. I share a wall in an office with her. We get to work together all the time, and it's a joy to get to work with such a great person and someone who is so passionate for what they do and just loves working with teachers and especially librarians and with books and all that good stuff. So I will watch the chat. If you have questions, I'll keep posting the link to Chris's website that has these slides for folks in the chat, so that if you come in later, you can still access them. But otherwise, I will mute and turn into a facilitator and turn the time over to Chris. So thanks, Chris.
All right, thanks, Clint. And it's a pleasure to work with Clint too. I learn every day. I love my job because I get to learn so much. We have a great team here at SEDC, and it's fun to be able to go out and help you teachers
There's
and
not like an attendance.
Oh, somebody needs to mute. That's Matt. Yeah. It's so great to work in an environment where you feel encouraged to explore and to learn, and our office is like that. It's a great environment to work in, and I hope you have the same thing in your buildings. And I know we probably have people outside of our region on this, so when I talk about Sora and the things I show you today, this still applies to you. Every district I believe in the state of Utah now has Sora links, so all of these features are available. The content might look a little bit different because we purchased,
This should
our
just be
books.
folks in our region.
Okay.
I didn't post this on anything social or anything. It's gone to everybody in our region, but you should be able to concentrate.
Perfect.
Yep.
So then everybody should be in our region. I just saw a lot of names that I hadn't seen, but that's not surprising knowing Clint's reach and draw of people across our region. So anyways, let's go talk about some of the features in Sora. When this Overdrive ebook library, we started this almost 10 years ago based on some grants that we wrote. And the idea was to be able to get books into the hands of our most rural, underserved students. So when we have a school out in Bryce Valley or Estelle or some of those more Kanab, those more rural places, and they have a small population, well, when your funding comes on a per pupil basis, that may mean a library may only have a couple $100s to buy books for the whole student body. So we wanted to make sure that students had equitable access. So we started this grant about 10 years ago with the $25,000 LSTA grant. And then since then, we've written several other grants and we get funding from the districts. And now we probably have close to $500,000 worth of books in it. We have thousands of titles, and we'll show some stats, but right now we're averaging about 14,000 checkouts a day. And that's only just about a little under half of the population. We've still got a lot of students to show this to and teachers. So I'm hoping that with this presentation that I do today, I've modeled it in a way that you could take it. And if you're a librarian, you could take it to your teacher and show. If you're a teacher, you could share it with your faculty. If you're a principal, you can share it out. And so you can teach others how to use it. So let's get started. We're going to talk about what can Sora do. Now, many of you probably know what an ebook library is, right? You check out a book and you read it online. But with Sora, there's so many things that you can do to be able to use this in your classroom, in your library, especially now where many of you may have virtual students. How can we get content? That's a big thing right now. Libraries are shut down in some schools. Librarians are having to push books into the classroom. They're having to quarantine books, and the whole process makes it really tough to get good content into the kids' hands. So in Sora, there's a lot of things that students can do. Students can track their reading progress. They can see how many books they've opened, how much time that they've read. Teachers can also use some of the activities that Overdrive provides to be able to do reading activities. In each of these slides, not each of them, but in many of the slides, there is a link right here. And if you click on the link, it will take you to a folder that has activities that you can use. So all of these are activities that go along with books. And I've purchased all of these books and put them in the library. And so if you wanted to do something with a classroom set, there's a feature that we'll talk about later that you could issue this to each of your students for 3 months. You can go through and read the book And then here's some activities. Okay, some writing prompts, some activities that you as a teacher could use or a librarian to go along as you're reading the story with the students. So there's several of these available in this folder. And again, all of these books are in our library. Okay. Another thing is they can earn achievements. Okay, badging has become quite a popular thing. So students can earn achievements. And I've printed a lot of these posters for our teachers and librarians. And there's little badges that we'll look at that they can earn as they go through. And you can post this up on your wall and the kids can mark that they got their achievements. But there's also some other activities that you could use along with it. Like there's a scavenger hunt. This is a great way to get the kids kind of exploring the different features. So here you hand this out to them and it could be digital and they just come in here and they have to check which badges they got. So they get a badge for every time they do something, return a book early, finish a fiction book. There's a bunch of different types of really simple ways to earn badges and they're just automatically awarded to the students. Okay. Audiobooks are a huge thing. I love audiobooks because we travel so much in our job going from school to school. I'm always listening to an audiobook. And you can also slow the pace down or speed it up. And a really great thing is the audiobook, you can pair that with a tree book, we call them, a physical book. You can pair it. So if a student is having some difficulties reading at maybe a higher level, then use the audiobook and the tree book together and let them hear and see the words. And that helps them to read the book. And that brings me to another thought about why I love this library so much. We have students who are in high school that may have an elementary school level, an elementary grade reading level. So those kids really struggle because they walk into a high school library and there's not a lot of content. And honestly, how many 10th grade students are going to want to carry around a 4th, 5th grade reading level book, right? Nobody's going to want to do that. But with Sora, students can pick books at their own level and they can read those to help build fluency and build their reading skills. Okay. And speaking of for helping with special needs, they also have some different fonts. Dyslexia is a common problem. It's the way that our eyes see the fonts. And there's a dyslexic font in there that students can turn on, and it helps them to be able to read the words better. I was in a school one time showing this to a special ed teacher, and she goes, "Oh, I just happen to have a dyslexic student right here," and brought the student over and showed her this, and she just started crying. She goes, and this was a high school student. She started crying. "Where has this book been, or the setting been all my life?" And now the teacher tells me she reads all the time through that. So they can adjust the font, they can make it bigger, they can change the background. So if you have students who want to have that black background, then they can adjust that and they can change it to different fonts. And we'll take a look at these features. One of the nice things that librarians really love, no lost books, no damaged books, no, I forgot. How many teachers, how many of your kids, "Oh, I need to go get a library book." They say that at the beginning of the period or beginning of class. Then they come back half an hour later with no library book, but they've been wandering around. Does that happen? I know it did in my school when I was a librarian. But this way you can the kids in class, they can find a book right there in the library. They have a 2-week checkout and they can check out 3 books at a time. So if they're voracious readers and they check out 3 books and then they return them, they can check out 3 more. So the kids have a lot of flexibility in how they can check out books, return them, and find books that they like in their own level. Okay. There's also some features in there that students can take notes. How many teachers here use the little yellow sticky notes and have the students write something in the book? An example of inference or who is the main character, those types of reading things. Kids can make notes and they can send them to you right from Sora. They can also highlight passages and save them. and build vocabulary list. There's actually a feature in there that they can click on the word and it defines the word for them. Now, when I go and present this in the schools, I always ask the kids, what do you do if you don't know how to spell a word? And I'll get kids say, oh, we search the words around it for in context, or nobody ever says we Google it, which is what most of them do, right? But nobody ever says, oh, we run right over to the dictionary and we look it up. Kids just don't even use the dictionaries in the classroom anymore. So here they can look up the words right inside of Sora. And again, there's another link. There's some activities in here. So these are annotations. Okay, so if you want to teach students how to use annotations, here's a little guide for you right here. And it shows how they can get annotations, how they can use them. And there's even a template. So if you want them to take that information and turn it into a template, into another sheet, then they can. And so here's some other tips and tricks for you in there. And here's the sample note template. So you could just copy this and use this as an activity in Sora with the book, whether it's a book that the student is reading independently or a book that you're reading as a class. No questions so far, Clint? Okay. I know sometimes I go so fast you can't get a word in edgewise. Clint knows. Okay.
Just remember that we're supposed to keep the instruction to 15 minutes. So
okay, I'm going.
Demo.
Okay. I thought we had an hour. Okay.
30 minutes max.
Okay. So you can add your public library into Sora to explore additional titles. And so when you go in there, we'll show you that. You're going to search for the Beehive Consortium. That's important to remember. Okay, so we talked a little bit about classroom sets. These are kind of like your regular physical books, but they're online and you have to come through me or your librarian to get those, but they can be pushed out to students for 3 or 6 months. There is a small fee that comes on top of, and it's usually like $1 to $5 per student. So it's more like a Netflix model, and not all books are available, but there are lots of deals. So if you have a book that you want to read as a classroom set, just send me an email and I'll tell you your options. We do have over 300 books that can be checked out by all. These are mostly the classics, the older books. They can still be assigned to students. Sora works great on Chromebooks, and students can easily add the app to their personal devices. There's also, this is the link to the library, and here's our Overdrive resources. If you're a librarian, you really want to use this site. We have our marketing and outreach here. And this is where I get all the printables. These are things that you can put on your websites, posters that you can print. You can put into Canvas. You can do just about anything with it, but there's also parent letters, lesson planning, character journals, all sorts of resources. Okay, so let's jump in and take a look at Sora. So I'm going to use an incognito window. Because it remembers when I'm logged in. So it's so awesome for the kids when they log in with their Chromebook, then they don't ever have to log in again. It works really great. So if we go to soraapp.com libraries/SEDC, and Clint can put that in the chat, they'll come right to here, and then you select your school. So whatever district you're in, you would select that, and I'll choose Iron just to show you, but you log in, and then it just asks you for your email. Now, if students are logged into their Chromebook, this automatically comes up and they just have to say allow. So no more worrying about where's my password. Okay. Now,
does this work for teachers too, or does teachers?
It works for teachers too. Yep. Everybody in our region is now hooked up through email. Good question, Clint. Thank you. So they can log in right there. Now, sometimes if they just go to soraapp.com without the library/SEDC, it'll take them to this page, and trying to tell kids to search for Southwest Educational Development Center. I wish I would have known this when we named it, but when they trying to get kids to go to this is a little bit difficult. But if they say I have a setup code, they can use SEDC, or it also works on a geolocation. So it automatically looks for schools around me. So then they could say, this is my school, and then they could log in that way. And then it still takes them to this though. But I'm gonna log in because I don't have a district email I use. I'm gonna log in right here, and everybody's gonna see my username. I don't have a password. So now everybody can go log in on my account. But so here I first log in, and when the students first log in, it's going to pop right up, yay, you've got a badge, and they earn their first badge. So I come in here, and this is my home, shows me the words that I've defined lately, my recent notes and highlights. Remember when I showed you, or I showed you how they could take notes and highlights? These are all the books, even after they've been turned back in. Then these are the books that have notes and highlights that I've made those in while I was reading them. Then I can click on them, and I can just export it right to my Google Drive. Okay, and then that's where they could share it with the teacher. Okay, so if I go to explore, that's where I'm going to go look for books. And this is kind of how our library is set up, a little bit different. You know, when you walk into a physical library, you'll see fiction over here and nonfiction over here. We do what's called collections. So we use these collections. We just recently expanded through K through 2. And so we have K through 2 right here. And then you can search by subject. And then you can come down. These are unlimited checkouts. These are those books I told you about that you can assign to a whole class, and there's no extra charge. Because of COVID, we made a collection for COVID related books. These are Eureka science books for the K through 2 for some of those seed standards. We have a Beehive Awards. Most of you should know what that is, but that's the state award system where kids actually vote for the books. So we put the nominees in here, and so the kids can read them. Graphic novels, which are huge right now. And these books are like, what can I do? These deal with manners and social skills. We have some nonfiction kids. This library was built on student requests. Okay, and then we have Battle of the Books, which is another contest that schools do. Ebooks available now, most popular books. These read-alongs, these are really great because we have audiobooks and then we have ebooks. These are a combination of the two. So when you click on those, then it will read the book out loud to students. Okay, and then we have high school picks, elementary, then we have a Spanish section. So you could have the kids go to a collection, like say if you were going to study Native Americans, you could say, go to the Native Americans, pick a book right there, write a note of who it was, and then have them submit that to you. These are classics. These are required literature books for Millard School District and World War II. These are books that students have created and we've uploaded to it. And then new audiobooks. So they can either, I'm going to make you dizzy there. They can either search like that, or they can search for a book. So if I say Harry Potter, and a great feature is if I say search all of my libraries, we can connect to the public libraries. And now it searches for Harry Potter in our library, as well as other libraries that I'm connected to, Washington County. This is that Beehive Library Consortium. So remember how I told you we could add a public library? Am I about running out of time, Clint? Okay, so to add a library, we come click up on here on the little hamburger menu, and we say add a library. And then you're going to type in Beehive Consortium. Okay, and so what we've done is we've connected with the state library, and they've allowed them students to authenticate with their school email in our region. Okay, so we say this is my library, and then now it's connected to my library, and now I can go check out books from the public library. And first question I always get when I tell teachers this is, can kids access adult books? So we have a filtering system in our ebook library. I'm gonna go back to ours. We have a filtering system that we have 3 categories: juvenile, which is K through 5, young adult, which is 6 through 8, and adult, which is 9 through 12. And even adult isn't adult books. You're not going to see 50 Shades of Grey or something like that, but it's still filtered. And those filters carry through to the public library. So when the kids come into this public library, they're not going to get all of the content that is at that public library. They're only going to get the stuff that's approved for the K through 12. Okay, any questions?
There were just a couple, and I think I've answered them right. 2 have asked how do they add their class, but if they just send them to the soraapp.com/library,
That's right.
SEDC, they just log in with their school account, right?
Yep, it's all authenticated through their school email. So every district and every charter in our region has been authenticated and set up. So they don't have to add a class. Kids are all in, all ready to go.
And that's new just this year, last year.
Well, we started
have to
doing
add
that about 2 years ago, and it's a pretty involved process, and we had to time it over the summer because we had a manual login and the email, and we didn't want to confuse the kids. And so it was a big process to do it. And we just finished the last school last week, the last charter school. So the students can still log in with their old ones if they can figure it out. Sometimes they'll go to the old Overdrive and still log in, but we want them to all come to Sora and authenticate with their school email. Any other questions?
If you have any others, open up your mic or put them in the chat. Happy to answer specifics.
And I'm going to show you some of the reports that we can get real quick out of here while we're seeing if we've got, oh, there we go. So these are the reports that I get, and I can break these down by school. So if you, as a librarian or a teacher, anybody, you want to see how your school is doing, I can filter this by school. But so this past 30 days, we've had 14,717 books read. So that total time read is over 5,000 hours. You can see the average time per book is 89 minutes. And then the average time per session, the average student reads about 38 minutes. So important during, when we have students that are virtual, to be able to get them content so they can continue reading. Minutes per day. These are all the badges that the kids have earned. So you can see, these are the ones that you get right at the beginning. But what I really like about this, and for you librarians, I would encourage you to, ask me for the reports, or I send them out as often as I can, try and do it once a month. But if you look at this, these are the top checkouts. And these are books that I would encourage you to maybe purchase for your library, because these are what your kids are reading as well. So when we filter it by school, it actually filters what the kids in your school are the top checkouts by checkout and by time read. So then you could purchase those for your school as well.
Okay, a couple questions. We have to log in. We have to log in through Garfield School District rather than our own school. Our specific school isn't listed. Is that an issue, or is that how it works?
No, so it's because we were the first consortium, so it was kind of new for Overdrive too. So it can go both ways. If they can't find their school, then just log in through Garfield Schools. They both point to the same place. It's a great question. They both go to the same place. But if you use that library/SEDC, it takes you right to that page with the drop downs on it. If you search for your school and you find any Garfield school, that'll work. Does that answer that question?
David,
Hey,
you opened
Chris.
your mic. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, do you want to tell everybody that, or if you have Canvas, you've put the ebook Sora in Canvas?
Yes, because we're also the Canvas admins for all of you here at SEDC. In Canvas, we have actually put a link in there. There's no real way to embed books into it because they have to check them out. But if we go into Canvas, and I'll show you what that looks like real quick. Go into a course. Then we have ebook library right here. And so kids can just click on that and it'll take them right to it. Okay, thanks. I don't know, was that David? Was that you that mentioned that? Thank you, David. I'm glad you said that. I hadn't even thought about that. But then they can just click right there and get to it. Okay. Any other questions?
Does Sora last all day or only during school hours?
All 24/7. That's the beauty of it. And what's interesting too is during the summer, our numbers drop to about maybe half, but even still, kids are reading every day during the summer. So it's available. And I know whoever asked that's probably thinking about Epic, because Epic is only available to kids at the school. This is 24/7. And the kids can download the app. Just go to their app store and look for Sora, and they can log in there and they can have it on their device. So if they're reading on their phone and then they come to school and they get on their Chromebook and they log in, it's seamless. It leaves right off on the story where they left off, and it picks up on another device. So it tracks it across devices as well. And when they log in on a Chromebook, it'll ask them to install a little shortcut. And then it just makes a little kind of an icon on their toolbar where they can just jump in right to Sora from there. Good question.
Jordan asks if there's something we need to do if we don't see the ebook library in our Canvas course.
Jordan, is that Millard? Jordan?
He's Garfield. And by the way, I'm dropping the link for the roll in the chat. So please follow that while we're answering the last questions, and make sure you sign in so you can get your Midas credit and get your half hour for the Reimagine Learning. And if you haven't signed up for the Reimagine Learning program, the dead deadline is this Friday at midnight. I'll put the link for that in the chat as well. And if you don't know what that is, stick around after Chris and we'll explain what that program is. It's $200 worth of free money. So.
Okay. So Jordan, for Garfield, I will look at that as soon as we get off this call and find out why it's not in there. Okay. And so one thing I really didn't talk about, should have, is how to check out a book. Let's do that really quick. You click on it, you say borrow, and now you have the book in your library, and then you can start reading. So we're just clicking along.
Read fast.
Yeah, that was too fast, huh? But if I click and hold on a word, see, it tells me define, highlight, or search. So then it defines that word right there. Okay. So, or the students could make notes right here. So if I highlight it and make a note, then I can type a note. And I just hit done, and that saves in those notes that I showed you already. But then students can come along and read. They can bookmark pages. And if they can also have some other settings. These are those reading settings that we talked about. Okay, we can make the scale bigger. Okay, we can change the font to, there's that dyslexic font. And kids always love this. We do the dark screen. Okay. So that part the kids figure out really easy though. The kids, it's getting the kids into the library. Once you get them in, they just go to town. They don't have any problems checking out books. It's getting into Sora. So if you could help get your kids into Sora, that would be a huge benefit. If you need some help with that, talk to your school librarian if you're not the librarian. But also I am happy to come out to your schools. I've done this to a lot of schools, and just go into the classroom and show the kids how to use Sora and enjoy reading and just have fun reading. Okay.
Can I ask a question really fast?
Sure.
We're kind of comparing this to Epic Books, and on Epic you can see like how much your kids are reading or like what they're reading. Is there like a teacher, like can we see who's in our class and like what they're doing? Is there a teacher side? No.
So
Okay.
no, there is a spot in the classroom, if you assign books into a classroom set, that you can see that they're reading at what percentage, how much time they've read, but that's only on assigned books. And that's a new feature to Sora. Because this library was meant just to be for pleasure reading, and not because in Epic and Mayan and those other, I know how valuable those are to have those leveled books and have kids reading and being able to assign levels and see their stats, and Epic is great for that. But this no, because it's more tied to like public library systems, the way that it's built, I can't even really see. The kids all have numbers, so you know we don't really track what they're reading, and so that's not really a feature that Overdrive has, or I think they probably will not have in the future.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we've had 27 people in the meeting, well, 25 and 22 in the roll, 21 in the roll. So make sure you check the chat, follow that link, and sign up if you need those or want those hours. And that's 4 o'clock. So I'm going to stop the recording and